Hey guys, welcome to No Filters, Just Freedom, the show for people who are ready to stop shrinking, start rising, and live with unapologetic audacity. My name is Jasmine, I'm a life coach, and I'm here to guide us all through this journey of bold, authentic living.
Welcome back to No Filters, the show where we cut through the noise and talk about how to live a more authentic, unburdened life. I'm your host, Jasmine, so let's get started. Today, we're tackling something that is incredibly simple in theory, but feels like navigating a minefield in practice: the art of the apology. It's a phrase that holds immense power, but is so often botched. A bad apology can do more than the original offense. The classic, "I'm sorry you felt that way," or the infamous, "mistakes were made." Even the text, "so we good?" These aren't apologies, they're escape routes. They create more filters between us and the people we care about. And at the same time, we're apologizing for every other trivial thing: our existence, the weather, for asking to get paid. Okay, maybe that one isn't so trivial. A real, genuine apology isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of profound strength and freedom. It frees you from guilt, repairs trust, and deepens connection. So today we're cutting through the crap and learning the art of the real, raw, ego-free apology. When to give it and how to write it. See, true freedom isn't about never apologizing. It's about knowing the difference between an apology that repairs a bridge and one that just burns your energy for no reason. So, real quick, I just want to define what an apology is not, okay? Not what it is, but it's not. These are things we're going to stay away from. First off, an apology is not a justification or excuse. An apology is quickly weakened when you follow it with, "well, because." Well, why are you explaining why you did what you did? I didn't ask you why you did it. I just want you to know that it hurt my feelings. Because here's the truth. A lot of times the person that got hurt that requires the apology completely understands. They're not stupid. It's not like they're confused. They would tell you they were confused if they were. They would look at you and say, "I just don't understand." But if they don't say that and they just simply say, "It hurts my feelings," or "I didn't like that," don't belittle their intellect. Just say, "I'm sorry," okay? When you justify something, it shifts the blame away from the person and onto the external circumstances. "Well, it wasn't really me. It was the way the universe lined up." No, it was you. You made a choice. Stand 10 toes down. The second thing an apology is not is a non-apology statement. Okay? It's not just like a random statement of, "I'm sorry you feel that way," or "I regret if anything was or anyone was offended." And you don't actually acknowledge personal responsibility. That's, again, an apology isn't about the situation or what you think. It's about how the other person feels. Okay? So you can't say, "well, I did what I had to do and everything else is on them." No. Like, sure, we are all individually responsible for our lives, our perceptions, and how we interact with the world. But that doesn't mean we don't have to take responsibility when how we interact affects other people's choices and lives, because we're not by ourselves. This isn't a video game. We're the main character and everybody else is just there to please us. So you have to give and take here. There's got to be communication. You don't want a statement that frames the issue as other people's oversensitivity. "Well, I tried to apologize. You're just still upset." No, you probably didn't apologize correctly. Okay? Don't belittle them because you don't know how to be an adult. Third, an apology is not a demand for forgiveness. This is a big one, okay? You give an apology without any sort of expectation of anything received on the other end, okay? And you're not trying to simply move on because that pressures the hurt party to concede and avoid sitting with the consequences of the actions. You don't get to look at somebody and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, like I said, I was sorry. Forgive me. Let it go." What do you mean, let it go? What do you mean? You can't just ask me to overlook and overrun whatever pain you cause just because it makes you uncomfortable. That's not how this works. The apology was for me and my feelings, and you have to give me the opportunity to feel what I'm feeling. It's pretty much how that works. So an apology doesn't require immediate forgiveness. Lastly, an apology is not a deflection of blame, okay? This includes phrases that are used when they add "but" to reverse the blame. Anything that is said before the word but is completely negated by everything that's said after the word but. That's totally how that works. Okay? You make a statement and then you say but, and then basically what that means is that, well, everything I just said was contingent upon, but now it's no longer relevant because this next part of the sentence matters more. No, that's how you get messed up with an apology, because you give whatever form of an apology you give, and then you say but, and then again, you go to justify, you go to blame external circumstances, you go to demand forgiveness. You're just reversing the blame from you to anything else. The universe, the person, the dog in the corner, it doesn't matter. You're just trying to take the blame off of you. Okay? And this but questions the validity of the hurt feelings. It makes you wonder, why. It makes you wonder why you even offered the apology to begin with. When you use the word but like that, it makes you question the reasoning behind the entire conversation. And then it makes the person that is hurt feel like they're crazy. And they're not crazy. You hurt their feelings. End of discussion. And you need to own your actions. Okay, that's how this works. I don't even really like the word but in my vocabulary in conversations with people. Whenever I'm having a one-on-one intense or deep conversation with a friend or something that really matters, like not just shooting the breeze or whatever else, but if we're talking about something like really serious, I don't like using the word but. I replace but, I would say 90% of the time, I replace but with and. That way the first part of my sentence still holds just as much weight as the second part. And yeah, it took a minute to get it in the flow of things, and it was worth it in the end. It means more, it holds more weight. It gets people to understand that you were listening, you were focused on them, and you still had an ability to intellectually process what you wanted to say and then give your thoughts, feelings, and emotions as well. I don't have to invalidate you to leave space for me. And does that, but does not. These things that an apology isn't are just manipulations designed to escape accountability while sounding polite. Still, it's important to know the root causes of bad apologies, and most of them come from our defensiveness. Okay, one of the main reasons that we don't apologize well, or we struggle to make it authentic, is shame versus guilt. And that's shame versus guilt is a big thing in general, and that's something we have to tackle at a different time. But these are really, really heavy emotions that drive a lot of things in life. Okay, when you say things like I'm bad, that is shame leading to defensiveness. Okay, I don't want to be a bad person. I don't want this to define me, so I have to protect and hide and do all these other things because you've labeled yourself as a bad person, when the truth is you're not a bad person. I did something bad kind of a person, which is guilt, which leads to repair. Guilt is a necessary emotion. Shame is not. Guilt leads us forward and helps us acknowledge other people in our world. Shame turns us inward and makes us feel like less of a person. So we want guilt over shame when we're in the wrong. You also have to pay attention to the ego's role in a bad apology. Okay? The ego says, we have a need to be right, or the apology will prevent us, or the good guy prevents us from taking responsibility. So you basically have decided that, well, there's a justification, so I'm right. Therefore, I don't need to give you something because I was right. No, that's not how that works, because you don't have to apologize for being right or wrong. You didn't hurt somebody's feelings because you were right. You hurt somebody's feelings because you hurt a feeling that they had. So this is no longer physical. This isn't tangible. This is an emotional, this is an EQ issue, not an IQ issue. And you need to have the emotional fortitude to apologize for that, not because you were right in the circumstance. And you know what? This goes back to the shame thing of where the good guy is like, no, I don't want to come off as a bad guy, so I'm not going to apologize. You're not a bad person. Good people make mistakes all the time. It's pretty much how the world works. Good people make bad choices. So just shut up and apologize. Get your ego out of the way. Okay? When your ego's involved, you feel like an apology is a threat to your self-image, which is the literal definition of egotistical. Like, you care so much about what you look like on the outside that you're like incapable of giving a real apology or worrying about someone else's feelings. That's ridiculous. Okay? Lay the ego down, apologize correctly. We also give bad apologies out of fear of consequences, okay? We often fear that a full apology is an admission of liability that will get used against us. Now, this was something that was hard for me growing up because I did live in a situation with the people that I was around, not just family, but coworkers and friends and teachers and whatever else. I lived in a situation where every little thing that you did was going to come back up later and used against you. So I was constantly walking on eggshells. I was constantly trying to figure out, well, how can I do this? How can I fix this? What does this have to look like? Because, this is going to come back to bite me in the butt. And if I apologize, it'll be a sign of weakness. And if I have a sign of weakness, they're going to eat me like sharks in the water. And that is a very overwhelming, stressful situation. Does not mean I didn't need to apologize. I'm not justifying it. I'm simply saying that I had a personal fear of consequences, and that's what stopped me a lot from apologizing. There is a fear of retribution and extremeness that comes with it. I was so scared of a future issue that stopped me from acting in the present. That is a very dangerous place to be because you are caught in the combination of the justification and the ego. You're caught in this weird place of like, well, there is a reason why I feel this way. And you know what? That reason may be valid. The reason why I felt the way I felt was a very valid reason. That did not mean that I did not hurt people's feelings in the process and that I did not need to learn how to apologize. I just never learned how to do it because I never took the opportunity in time. I never learned how to do it. And I didn't have a lot of people around me trying to teach me and help me. So my fear and other people's fear of consequences is a huge reasoning behind why we give bad apologies. And that leads me into the last one of we give bad apologies because we have a lack of role models, okay? Many of us never learn how to do it properly. And honestly, we're just kind of mimicking the bad apologies we've seen. I love my parents. They're amazing. They're great. There are a lot of things that they did and how they raised me that like I don't have really big problems with, and something I'll probably take into the future with my daughter. But one of the big ones, and I do mean but there, like not and, but one of the huge things that really, really matters to me is showing my daughter that it's okay to be wrong and to give apologies. I don't like the feeling that can be produced when you don't apologize simply because you're in a position of power and you don't have to. That is a very dangerous lesson to impart on a kid that is 100% non-intentional. Okay? Nobody is attempting to teach their kid, that their apologies don't matter. Okay, maybe there's some people that do, but we're not talking about those kind of parents. So just on a basic parenting level, the goal is not to treat them like crap and make them feel less than human. And sometimes when we have our own thing about apologizing and not feeling like we have to give one to the kid, again, justified, we just create this really vicious cycle where we have children that grow up and don't know how to give apologies. And my parents are fairly good apologizers. They just never really apologize to us as kids. And I think a lot of that also has less to do with being an adult and more about being their kids. Because even now, I'm grown, and sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get my mom to apologize to me. It's hilarious. She'll give apologies out left and right to other people that she hurts and whatever else. It's funny to me at this point. It's like there's something about the parent-child dynamic that just all of a sudden makes it real hard for people to continue the apology tour. It is what it is. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. So I think that when you don't have role models, when people don't show you what it's like to self-sacrifice and what it's like to lay down your ego, how else are you supposed to know? We have to start creating good role models in life, okay? We need to stop mimicking the bad apologies and start mimicking the good ones. And let's get real. What's the worst, most defensive excuse you've ever caught using to avoid the full apology? I know one of mine includes an explanation of childhood trauma that continues to affect me into adulthood. And I'm working on that in therapy. Yes, I was doing the most of the time. I literally tried to explain my entire life story to get out of simply saying, you know what, I didn't mean to hurt you, I'm sorry. It was literally those simple short words that could be used, and I definitely took it to the extreme of like justification and fear, and was willing to just share my entire pain to prove a point that like I don't necessarily need to apologize. Again, not learning how to do it right, not having great role models. Me in the past was a messy human, and I love my friends who stuck with me through the hard years, because there were a lot of hard years there. But there's a transformative power in a real apology, okay? First thing, it's about liberation, not resolution. So for the giver, there's a freedom of releasing guilt and shame through taking the responsibility. Okay, that's your part. When you give an apology, you get to take a weight off your shoulders, because hurting someone and knowing that they're upset does create a little weight. Even if it's just a small one, it's still a weight. Okay, so you're free from that. It unburdens your soul. And we're all craving that anyway. We're all craving to be a little lighter. So when you apologize, you get that freedom. And then for the receiver, they receive validation and healing for their pain and experiencing and their experience, and then they're acknowledged by their experience. That's huge, because we all crave validation in this world. We all crave to be seen and loved. And when someone gives you an apology, it is an affirmation that they have seen the circumstance, understand where you are emotionally, and therefore will do something about it. That is powerful in its own right, and that's what the receiver is looking for, okay? It restores dignity, all right? It makes the receiver feel whole, like a human, like a functional human being, okay? All because you saw that they were in pain and you did something about it. And then it's also for the liberation of the relationship. It's the only possibility for building a foundation that is on trust and safety. It's the only possibility that you can use to rebuild a foundation. And if that's your goal, because maybe you did something that really caused serious disarray, then you got to do something about that. You got to fix it. You got to heal it. And the first step that you take is the apology. Now, you might not fix it that way, but it's a good first step, and you need it in order to move on. Without a real apology, that crack will remain forever. And then the second transformation thing that you can have is, again, the anatomy, understanding the difference between shame and guilt, okay? Remember, healthy, which is guilt, leads to repair, but toxic in shame leads to hiding and defensiveness, and nothing gets cured in the dark, okay? Everything must come to the light in order to be fixed. Real apologies will come from guilt, not shame. Okay, you do not have to hide yourself. You do not have to protect yourself. When it's a real relationship, when it's a real apology, when it's a real connection that matters, there is space for you to be vulnerable, and there is space for the other person to be vulnerable. Everyone just needs to take the space. So real quick, let's delete some apologies from our vocabulary. Seriously, delete them. The habitual sorry. You apologize for taking up space, having an opinion, or making a request. This is a filter that diminishes us. Stop bumping into walls and saying, I'm sorry. Stop walking down the street, somebody in your path, and being like, I'm sorry. Like, standing in line for the copier and being like, I'm sorry. No, like you breathe the wrong way and you're like, I'm sorry. No, okay? It's diminishing you. You do not have to apologize for being in an area, for existing, for living. Okay, an apology is about doing something wrong, and you living is not wrong. The preemptive strike, I'm sorry, okay, which is saying sorry as a shield to say something harsh or critical, all right? So you look at someone and go, look, I'm sorry, but, again, there's the but, okay? I'm sorry I have to say this, blank. Like, if you know it's gonna hurt their feelings, why are you saying it? Why can't you find a better way to vocalize this without harshness, without pain, without brokenness? Like, why? With one of my best friends, I say something instead of like preemptive sorry, which is something I definitely would have done in the past. I look and go, remember, I love you. And she like gears herself up for that. But like, it's like hey, my preemptive is a reminder that this relationship matters to me, that this is about us as a core, not, our relationship being on the phrase and the tatters. I'm not saying this to tear you down. I'm saying this so that we can continue building up as a group. Ergo, what I'm going to say next might hurt, but it is out of love and intentionality. It also allows me to stay away from justification because I'm reminding you that I'm saying this out of love, so no one is looking for the justification of why I said what I said. If there's a question about why I said it, that question will be asked. But we don't have to deal with that. It also relieves the shame of saying, I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad person for wanting what's best, maybe vocalizing a boundary for myself or fighting for my friend. All of these things can be alleviated when you give the caveat of love, not a preemptive sorry. You want to delete the sympathy I'm sorry, which makes it their problem, not your action, which is, I'm sorry you feel that way. I hate that apology. It's the worst apology ever. You're not sorry. You don't apologize for them feeling the way they feel. That's just your way of being like, well, it sucks to be you. It's the most condescending thing in the world, and I hate it. Then, of course, there's the vague, booking kind of I'm sorry, which is non-specific, and it's a public apology that seeks attention, not resolution. So like you're in a group of your friends and you're like, I'm so sorry that I did that the other day. That was it. No filling on the sandwich, no depth, no nothing. Just if the rest of the group asks, they saw that I apologized. But there's no substance behind it. It's just this weird ethereal, like I said, I use the words I'm sorry, but it doesn't have anything behind it. And lastly, you have the instrumental apology, okay, where you're saying sorry just to get something to go back to normal without any real change. I gave that kind of I didn't know I gave sorries like that. Sometimes, again, fear, until I really messed it up with one of my best friends. I was at the end of high school, and she's literally one of my best friends in my entire life. I love her to death, and she's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. And I about threw that relationship away because I was trash at that time. And I don't say that to belittle myself. I say, like, when I look back, my 30-year-old self looks back at that poor teenager and go, oh, you had a snowball's chance in hell. And so, yeah, I messed up and I tried to give a quick apology that was like, no, it's all good, right? Like, we're gonna be fine. I apologize. You're gonna forgive me and it's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be great. I'm gonna go back to normal. You're gonna go back to normal. Everything is great. But see, me going back to normal is how she got her feelings hurt. So I was just hoping to okay, we did the dance, we said what we needed to say, and now we can get back to life. No, it's a terrible apology. And again, it doesn't make you take responsibility for anything, and it devalues them. The truth is that there is a high value relationship saving apologies that require courage and are worth the effort, okay? So you can have the naked apology. Use I statements where you take full ownership. No filters, no ifs, but, or you. It's about actions, period. I am sorry that I did this action because I recognize that it did this to you. Okay, that's an I statement. You give the empathy statement where it's the heart of the apology. It demonstrates an understanding of the impact of the actions. Again, I understand that I did this thing to you. You use words that are specific about what you're sorry for. So not just that thing and it's or was or, hey, I'm sorry that I took your coffee maker without asking. I recognize that it betrayed your trust. Something like that, It doesn't matter what the intent was, it matters what was done. This is where you validate their experience without making it about you, okay? Because again, their feelings matter. There is something happening there. You have to acknowledge it, okay? Then you plan for change. You have the I statement, you have the empathy, and then you plan to make the change better, okay? It's the apology, super credible. It's the, how can I make this right? It's not the instrumental, like, let's just go back to the way things were. Absolutely not, okay? This is where you actually get to the meat and potatoes of it all, okay? If the actions don't match the values and a specific plan to align behavior with your authentic self, then it's not a real apology, okay? You need to have an actual plan to make it better. I'm really sorry that I betrayed your trust and took your coffee maker without asking. That was never my intention. I understand that I hurt you. In the future, I will not go anywhere or take any of your stuff without previous permission. Like, I have given an action plan. I have given the empathy. I have used the I statements, okay? You state clearly what you do differently because you're respecting their boundaries, i.e., I won't do anything with your things without express permission, okay? You apologize for a recurring behavior and present a concrete plan to change it. Okay, that's the action. That's the meat and potatoes in the apology. What are you going to do to be different? Okay, this turns the apology from words to commitment. This is what they mean when they say actions speak louder than words. Okay, this is sure, it's real easy for everyone to just be like, my bad. But what are bad? What did you do wrong, and how are you not going to do it again? Because again, you hurt my feelings, and I don't want to be in a situation where you hurt my feelings twice for something that could have been easily remedied. You know what I'm saying? So remember, you can't request forgiveness. Recognizing it will take time to rebuild trust, gives power back to the hurt party. And on the flip side of this, when you've been hurt, you have the right to set the terms of forgiveness. So here's how we're going to accept a real apology that's coming your way, because it's not just one thing to give it, you have to be able to receive it appropriately. Okay? The first thing I do is spot the fake apology. Okay, most times this is a gut feeling you need to go with, okay? When someone goes, yeah, my bad, and then goes to walk away, your body's like, nope, you just tried to get off the hook, okay? Focus on your feelings, not their actions, okay? You gave me the words, you did what needed to be done, but there's no meat and potatoes, okay? And this includes the but that justifies their behavior. Your response is not mandatory. So if they're looking for you to respond immediately, it's not a real apology, okay? You are free to say, thank you for apologizing. I need some time to process this. It's perfectly acceptable because you're the one that was hurt and you're the one that has to overcome the pain, all right? Then there is a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Huge, that a lot of people don't understand. Okay, we just talked about this in our previous episode. You can forgive for your own peace without letting that person back into your life the same way. You can forgive and still protect. If you have other questions or thoughts on forgiveness, listen to my previous episode because it's a big deal. You can forgive and let that freedom go as the person that requires the apology and still put a boundary in place and not have to set yourself up for failure again. So you don't have to reconcile if you don't want to. And lastly, what do you do with that bad apology? What happens when someone gives you that bad apology and you're just holding it in your hands? Okay, I want to say, I hear you, but it doesn't really feel like you're taking responsibility for it, ... Like, I heard you, I'm focused on what you're vocalizing, and I'm calling your bluff. Okay, it's about setting a personal boundary. Okay, boundaries are important. Remember, a real apology is a tool for liberation, not to punish yourself. So free yourself from the obligation to accept anything less than genuine, responsible apology. The goal is to move through the world with more intention and less meaningless noise. Still, sometimes apologies go sideways and we have to figure out how to navigate the aftermath. So when an apology isn't accepted, you have to handle it with grace. It doesn't mean your apology was worthless. You did your part to clean your side of the street, and now you have to respect their process, okay? It's not about you, it's about them. The goal is to take responsibility for your actions, not to control the response, okay? This is not about controlling the situation. If you were in control of everything, they might not have their feelings hurt, okay? Then what do you do for the over-apologizer or the person that's apologizing for the past? You don't apologize for existing or for having needs. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the episode. You're not a bad person for breathing. Okay? You're not taking up space for being a human being, okay? This is not humility, it's just diminishing your presence, okay? You apologize for impact, not rehashing old wounds, okay? You take away from your apologies when you start apologizing for everything that happened in the past that's not important, okay? There is freedom in forgiveness. The freedom for the giver is found in the act of taking responsibility, and you are not responsible for their reaction, so you must be able to sit with that discomfort without retracting the apology. For the receiver, the freedom lies in their ability to feel and to take the time needed to process it. It doesn't demand instant forgiveness, and most importantly, there is a freedom found in self-forgiveness. You can let go of past mistakes and perpetual punishment. A real apology is a gift of clarity and respect. It's not about being wrong, it's about valuing the relationship more than your ego. It removes the filter between your mistake and your humanity. It says, I see you, I hurt you, and your feelings matter more than my ego. In the future, I will change my behavior. This is where freedom and connection live. So this week, I challenge you to notice your habits and try to give one unfiltered apology. It could be for something recent or for something that has been weighing on you. Follow the steps, feel the vulnerability, and then feel the incredible freedom that comes with true accountability. And if this episode resonated with you, Share it with someone who might need the encouragement to find their own freedom in apologizing. Until then, let's stop throwing sorry around like confetti and start handing it out like the gold that it really is. Remember, the strongest people are those with the courage to say, I was wrong.
Remember, you don't need permission to be great, and this is your call to rise, to reclaim your power, and to step boldly into the life you were meant to live. I believe extraordinary potential lives in all of us, the dreams we've tucked away, the voice that was softened, and the fire that's been waiting to burn bright. This journey isn't about fitting into someone else's mold. It's about shattering expectations and embracing your truest, most unapologetic self. No more shrinking or waiting for permission. The world needs your brilliance, your resilience, and your unique light. It's time to stop asking, am I enough? And start declaring, I am more than enough. Your next chapter begins now. Let's write it with courage, audacity, and unshakable belief in who you are. The unstoppable person isn't born, they're awakened. And that person is you. Now go start your revolution. This world needs your unshaken light today.